July 4, 1956, Lennox Avenue, Harlem. In front of 200 witnesses, a New York City police officer knocked Bumpy Johnson's hat into the gutter. No punch, no threat, just 5 calm words. Within 48 hours, a career collapsed without a single law broken. This wasn't anger or pride. It was strategy. So how did silence become a weapon? To understand the ending, we return to the moment the hat hit the street. July 4, 1956, 2:17 in the afternoon, Lennox Avenue in Harlem, where 200 people packed the sidewalks celebrating Independence Day with beer and fireworks. The air smelled like grilled meat and gunpowder and sweat. Bumpy Johnson walked down Lennox Avenue in a gray suit and a charcoal fedora. 49 years old. 20 years running Harlem. The hat was not decoration. It was a statement. Touch another man's hat in this neighborhood, and you better be ready to have your jaw wired shut for 6 months while you ate through a straw, and explain to your wife why half your teeth were in a plastic bag. Patrick Ali saw him coming. 32 years old, 6 years on the force, 6 years shaking down shop owners for cash that never made it to the precinct. 6 years beating suspects in basement cells until they confessed to crimes they did not commit. Ali thought the badge meant he could do whatever he wanted. He was wrong. Ali stepped into Bumpy's path and smiled like a man about to do something he had been dreaming about for months. Bumpy Johnson, walking around like you own the street. Bumpy said nothing. Behind him, Illinois Gordon's hand moved toward the .38 under his coat. Bumpy raised one finger. Illinois froze. You think that hat makes you special? Ali reached up and slapped the fedora off Bumpy's head, hard enough that it spun through the air and landed in the gutter where rainwater mixed with motor oil and dog piss. The hat sat there soaking in filth. The street went silent. 200 people stopped moving. This was the moment. This was when Illinois would pull the .38 and put 2 rounds in Ali's chest. This was when Bumpy would grab Ali by the throat and slam his face into the brick wall until his nose broke and his teeth came loose. This was when Harlem would explode into the kind of violence that brought federal investigators and made the front page of every newspaper in New York. Illinois' hand moved back toward his gun. Bumpy looked at him. One look. Illinois' hand dropped. Bumpy bent down, picked up the hat, shook off the water, put it back on his head. Then he looked at Patrick Ali and smiled. The kind of smile that made the old shoeshine man on the corner start packing his kit because he knew what that expression meant. He had seen it before, 19 years ago, when a numbers runner named Tommy Bones thought he could skim from Bumpy's operation. Tommy disappeared for 3 days. When he came back, he was missing 4 fingers on his right hand and refused to say what happened. Just packed up and left New York on a bus heading south. Never came back. Thank you, officer. Have a nice day. Bumpy turned and walked away. Illinois followed. Patrick Ali stood there grinning like he had just won something. The crowd did not understand. They had expected blood, expected sirens, expected someone getting carried out on a stretcher. Instead, they got 5 words and a smile. But the old shoeshine man understood. That smile was not surrender. That smile was a death sentence. Not the quick kind, the slow kind. The kind where you watch everything you built crumble piece by piece while you stand there helpless, knowing exactly who did it and unable to prove a single thing. Patrick Ali had no idea what he had just done. He did not know about the file Bumpy kept in a safe at his apartment, 3 inches thick. 2 years of photographs showing Ali walking out of shops with envelopes. Bank statements showing deposits that did not match his salary. Recordings of Ali's voice on tape telling a Korean grocer that $50 a week would keep his store from burning down. Names and dates and amounts. Everything documented, everything filed, everything waiting for the right moment. That moment had just arrived. By tomorrow morning, copies of that file would be on 3 desks. One at Internal Affairs, one at the District Attorney's office, one at the New York Times. By Monday, Ali would be suspended. By Tuesday, he would be under investigation. By Wednesday, his bank accounts would be frozen. By Thursday, his wife would pack her bags and take the kids to her mother's house in Connecticut. By Friday, Patrick Ali would be sitting in his empty apartment with a bottle of whiskey and a loaded revolver, wondering if it was better to eat the bullet now or wait for the trial. Bumpy Johnson did not need to knock Ali's hat off. He just needed to let Ali knock his off first. In front of 200 witnesses, make it public. Make it personal. Then sit back and let the machine do its work. Because revenge was not about putting a knife in someone's ribs in a dark alley. That was amateur work. That was what street thugs did when they ran out of ideas. Real revenge was surgical. You did not kill the man. You killed his career, his reputation, his pension, his marriage, his future. You made him watch it all burn while he stood there understanding that fighting back would only make it worse. You made him grateful when the judge only gave him 5 years instead of 10. You made him leave New York knowing that if he ever came back, the next file would not go to internal affairs. It would go to men who settled problems with piano wire and bathtubs full of acid. The old shoeshine man walked home. He had been in Harlem long enough to know how this ended. Patrick Ali thought he had humiliated Bumpy Johnson in front of 200 people. What he had actually done was sign his own confession. Public. Witnessed. Undeniable. And now Bumpy Johnson was going to teach him what real power looked like. Not the kind that came from a badge and a gun. The kind that came from knowing which buttons to push to make the whole system turn against you and grind you into nothing. 15 minutes after Patrick Ali knocked Bumpy's hat into the gutter, Illinois Gordon sat in the back office of Small's Paradise, with his fists clenched so tight, his knuckles had gone white. Bumpy sat behind his desk with a glass of Barolo from 1934 in front of him. The wine had not been touched. The room was quiet as a funeral parlor. "You should have let me shoot him," Illinois said. His jaw was set. His voice was flat. Right there on Lennox Avenue, 2 rounds center mass. He would have been dead before he hit the pavement. 200 witnesses, and half of them would have sworn he pulled his gun first. Bumpy looked at the wine glass, did not pick it up. "And then what?" "Then he bleeds out on the street and we go about our business." "No. Then he bleeds out and I am in handcuffs. Then you are in handcuffs. Then every cop in New York has a reason to kick down doors in Harlem looking for payback. Then we spend the next 5 years watching our people get arrested, beaten, thrown in cells, until someone talks. That is not how this ends." Illinois stood and walked to the window. Down on 7th Avenue, the holiday crowd was still drinking and celebrating. "So we just let him walk? We let him humiliate you in front of the whole neighborhood and do nothing?" "I did not say we do nothing. I said we do not shoot him in the street like some amateur who cannot think past the next 5 minutes. Bumpy opened the desk drawer, pulled out a folder held together with rubber bands, 3 inches thick, set it on the desk. Illinois turned from the window and stared at it. "What is that?" 2 years of work. Every crooked thing Patrick Ali has done since 1954. Photographs of him walking out of shops with envelopes. Bank statements showing deposits that do not match his salary. Tape recordings of him telling a Korean grocer that $50 a week keeps his windows from getting smashed with baseball bats. Illinois picked up the folder, opened it. The first photograph showed Ali leaving a grocery store with cash visible in his hand. The second page was a bank deposit slip, $300. Same day. The third page was a transcript of a conversation someone had recorded with a wire hidden under a counter. "You have been collecting this for 2 years. Since the first time he tried to shake down one of my people, a grocer on a 125th. Ali told him pay up or the store burns. The grocer came to me. I told him to pay. Then I started building this. Illinois flipped through more pages, more photos, more statements, more evidence. Why? Why spend 2 years on this when you could have had him killed in an alley for $200 and a shovel? Because killing him creates more problems than it solves. You kill a cop, his friends come looking. They kick in doors. They plant evidence. They beat your people until someone gives them a name. But if you let the system eat him alive, if you let his own department throw him in a cell and forget he exists, nobody blames you. The problem disappears and your hands stay clean. Illinois closed the folder, set it back on the desk. So what happens now? Tomorrow morning I make 3 phone calls. 1 to Internal Affairs, 1 to the district attorney, 1 to a reporter at the Times who writes about dirty cops and would kill his own mother for a story this good. Then I sit back and watch. That is it. 3 phone calls, 3 phone calls, then the machine starts grinding. Internal Affairs opens an investigation. The DA pulls his bank records. The Times runs a front-page story about a corrupt cop bleeding Harlem dry. By next week, Ali is suspended without pay. By next month, he is indicted. By next year, he is in a cell at Sing Sing, sharing a bunk with men who do not like cops and have very creative ways of expressing that opinion. Illinois sat down. What about the 200 people who saw him knock your hat off? What about everyone who thinks you just took it? That is exactly why I picked up the hat and thanked him. 200 witnesses saw a cop try to provoke me and saw me walk away. When Ali goes down, everyone remembers that. They remember Bumpy Johnson kept his composure while a dirty cop tried to start a fight. They remember I did not need to throw a punch because I fight where it actually matters, in courtrooms, in newspaper headlines, in places where people cannot just shoot back. Bumpy picked up the wine glass, took 1 sip, set it down. Any fool can pull a trigger, walk up to someone and put a bullet in their brain. That is not power. That is just loud. Real power is making someone destroy themselves while you watch from a distance. Real power is turning their own people against them. Their own system. Their own greed. Illinois was quiet. Then he said, "What if it does not work? What if Internal Affairs buries it? What if the DA decides he does not want to prosecute a cop? Then I have a second file. This one does not go to the system. This one goes to people who settle problems with car trunks and hydrochloric acid. But it will not come to that, because I am not just giving them evidence on one cop. I am giving them evidence that makes them look dirty if they ignore it. Photos, tapes, bank records. If they bury this, the Times will run a story asking why. And nobody wants that question that asked where voters can read it." Bumpy stood and walked to the window. "You know the difference between me and Patrick Ali. He thinks power comes from a badge and a gun. He thinks he can do whatever he wants because the law protects him. But the law is just a machine, and machines work for whoever knows which buttons to push. Ali knocked my hat off because he wanted to prove he was not afraid. What he actually proved is that he has no idea how this game works." Illinois looked at the folder. 2 years of surveillance, 2 years of documentation, 2 years of building a weapon that would not explode until the exact right moment. When this is over, what happens to him? Depends how smart he is. If he is smart, he takes the police serves 5 years, gets out, and moves somewhere nobody knows his name. Lives quiet. Dies quiet. If he is stupid, he fights it. And if he fights it, people will visit him. Not cops, not lawyers. People who know how to make a man disappear piece by piece until there is nothing left to bury. Bumpy sat back down. But I do not think it comes to that. Men like Ali fold when the system turns on them. They spend their whole lives thinking the badge is armor. Then one day they wake up in a holding cell and realize the badge is gone and nobody is coming to save them. That is when they learn what fear actually is, not the fear of getting shot. That is quick. This is slow. This is watching your career burn, your pension evaporate, your wife pack her bags, your kids stop calling, your friends cross the street when they see you. This is understanding that you are going to prison, and the only question is whether you survive long enough to get paroled. The room went quiet. Outside, fireworks exploded. People cheered. Harlem celebrated Independence Day. But inside this office, Bumpy Johnson was preparing to teach Patrick Ali what independence actually meant. It meant not needing violence to win. It meant turning your enemy's weapon against them. It meant watching them destroy themselves while you sat back and waited for the machine to finish the job. "Tomorrow morning," Bumpy said. 3 phone calls. By tomorrow night, Patrick Ali's world starts ending, and he will spend every day after that wishing I had just let you shoot him on Lennox Avenue, because a bullet would have been mercy. July 5th, 1956. 6 in the morning. Bumpy Johnson sat at his kitchen table with 3 copies of the folder spread in front of him. Each copy was identical, 3 inches thick. Photographs, bank statements, tape transcripts, 2 years of documentation showing every corrupt thing Patrick Ali had done since he started shaking down shop owners in Harlem. The first call went to Captain Robert Hayes at Internal Affairs. Hayes picked up on the 3rd ring. His voice was rough from cigarettes and not enough sleep. "This is Hayes." "Captain, this is Bumpy Johnson. I have information about one of your officers, Patrick Ali. Badge number 4738. Works the Harlem beat." Silence on the line. Then Hayes said, "I am listening." "Ali has been collecting protection money from shop owners in Harlem for 2 years. I have photographs, bank records, tape recordings, everything you need to bury him. I can have a copy of the file on your desk in 1 hour. Why are you bringing this to me?" "Because yesterday afternoon, Officer Ali knocked my hat off on Lennox Avenue in front of 200 witnesses. He did it to humiliate me, to show everyone that the police can do whatever they want in Harlem. I could have had him killed. I chose not to. Instead, I am giving you the opportunity to clean your own house before this becomes a public problem." Hayes was quiet for 10 seconds. "Send the file. If what you are saying is true, I will handle it." "It is true. And Captain, one more thing. I am also sending copies to the district attorney and the New York Times, so if you decide to bury this, everyone will know you had the evidence and did nothing." Bumpy hung up, made the 2nd call. District Attorney Martin Kellerman, career prosecutor, ran on a platform of cleaning up police corruption, had been looking for a case that would make headlines and help him run for mayor in 2 years. "Mr. Kellerman, this is Bumpy Johnson. I have evidence of a police officer in Harlem collecting bribes and extorting shop owners. The evidence includes photographs, bank records, and audio recordings. Internal Affairs will have a copy within the hour. I wanted you to have one as well, so you can decide if this is worth prosecuting." Kellerman's voice was sharp. "Interested. What kind of evidence?" "The kind that wins convictions. Photos of Officer Patrick Ali taking envelopes from shop owners, bank deposits that do not match his salary, recordings of him threatening to burn down stores if they do not pay. Everything documented, everything verified, everything ready for a grand jury." "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because Ali crossed a line yesterday. He knocked my hat off in public, in front of witnesses. I could have handled it the way men in my position usually handle disrespect. I chose not to. I am giving you the chance to do your job before I have to do mine." Kellerman understood the message. "I will review the file. If the evidence supports prosecution, I will move forward." "Good, because the New York Times will also have a copy. So if you decide this is not worth your time, they will be asking why." 3rd call. Michael Brennan at the Times, investigative reporter, had spent 5 years writing stories about crooked cops and corrupt precincts, had won awards, had made enemies, did not care about either. "Brennan. Mr. Brennan, I have a story for you. Dirty cop in Harlem. 2 years of documented corruption. Photographs, bank records, audio recordings. Everything you need for a front-page story that makes the police department look like they have been ignoring a cancer in their ranks. Who is this Bumpy Johnson? Brennan laughed. You are calling me the same Bumpy Johnson who runs half of Harlem. The same. And I am handing you evidence that will end a cop's career and make your editor very happy. The only question is whether you want it or whether I should call the Daily News instead. I want it. What is the catch? No catch. The cop knocked my hat off yesterday in front of 200 people. I could have killed him. I am choosing to let the system do it instead. All I ask is that you print the truth. Every word, every photograph, every bank statement. Make it so clear that nobody can claim this is just a grudge or a setup. When can I see the file? 1 hour. I will have it delivered to your office, and Mr. Brennan Internal Affairs and the DA will have copies too. So everyone moves at the same time. Nobody gets to bury this. Bumpy hung up, sat back in his chair. 3 phone calls, 3 copies of the file, 3 different pressure points. Internal Affairs had to investigate or look complicit. The DA had to prosecute or look weak. The press had to print the story or lose credibility. And Patrick Ali had no way to stop any of it because the evidence was airtight and the witnesses were everywhere. Illinois Gordon walked into the kitchen. It is done. It is done. By noon today, 3 copies of that file will be on 3 desks. By tomorrow, the story will be on the front page. By next week, Ali will be suspended. By next month, he will be indicted. And through all of it, my hands stay clean. What if he runs? What if he realizes what is coming and leaves town? Then he runs. And everyone knows he ran because he was guilty. Either way, he is finished. The badge is gone. The career is gone. The pension is gone. He becomes a warning. A story people tell when they want to explain what happens when you cross lines that should not be crossed. Bumpy stood and walked to the window. Outside, Harlem was waking up. Shop owners were opening their gates. Kids were heading to summer jobs. The city was moving like nothing had changed. But something had changed. Yesterday, Patrick Ali had knocked Bumpy's hat into the gutter, thinking it would make him look strong. What it actually did was activate a weapon that had been loaded for 2 years. And now that weapon was about to fire. The beauty of it was that Patrick Ali still thought he had won. He was probably at home right now telling his wife about how he had humiliated Bumpy Johnson in front of 200 people, and Bumpy had just walked away. He was probably laughing, probably feeling invincible. That arrogance was the final piece. Men who think they are untouchable stop watching their backs. They stop checking over their shoulders. They stop being careful. And that is when the trap closes. By tomorrow, Ali would understand that Bumpy Johnson had not walked away because he was weak. He had walked away because strong men do not need to fight in the street. They fight in places where fights actually get decided. Courtrooms, newspaper headlines, internal affairs offices where careers go to die. Bumpy poured himself a cup of coffee. How long do you think it takes before Ali figures out what is happening? Illinois thought about it. Monday morning, when Internal Affairs shows up at his precinct with the file. When his captain pulls him into an office and asks him to explain the bank deposits, that is when he understands. And what do you think he does? He tries to fight it, hires a lawyer, claims the evidence is fake, says you set him up because of the hat. And nobody believes him, because the evidence is not fake. Because 200 people saw him knock my hat off, which gives me motive but does not change the fact that he is on tape threatening shop owners. Because his bank account tells a story his salary cannot explain. Bumpy sipped his coffee. Patrick Ali made a mistake yesterday. He thought public humiliation would break me. What he did not understand is that public humiliation only works if the other person cares what people think. I do not care what people think. I care about results, and the result is that in 48 hours Patrick Ali will be begging for mercy from a system that does not give second chances. Monday morning, July 7th, 1956. 9 o'clock. Captain Robert Hayes sat in his office at Internal Affairs with the folder open on his desk, 3 inches thick. He had been reading it for 2 hours. His coffee had gone cold. His cigarette had burned down to ash in the tray. He picked up the phone and dialed the precinct captain who supervised Patrick Ali. "Captain Morris, this is Hayes at Internal Affairs. I need Officer Patrick Ali in my office by noon today. Bring his personnel file. Bring his duty logs for the past 2 years. And Captain, come alone. Do not tell him why. Do not give him time to prepare. Just bring him." Morris started to ask questions. Hayes cut him off. "You will understand when you get here. Trust me. You do not want to be on the wrong side of this." At 10 o'clock, District Attorney Martin Kellerman sat in his office with his chief prosecutor and the same folder spread across the conference table. Photographs of Patrick Ali taking envelopes from shop owners, bank statements showing deposits that added up to $30,000 more than his salary over 2 years. Transcripts of recorded conversations where Ali threatened to burn down businesses if they did not pay. "This is airtight," the chief prosecutor said. "We have him on extortion, bribery, abuse of authority. We could add racketeering if we wanted to stretch it." Kellerman nodded. "What about the source, Bumpy Johnson? Defense will argue this is a setup. Retaliation for something. Does not matter. The evidence is real. The bank records are verified. The recordings are authenticated. Johnson did not fabricate this, he just collected it. And even if it is retaliation, that does not change the fact that Ali is on tape committing crimes. Prepare a grand jury presentation. I want an indictment by the end of the month." At 11 o'clock, Michael Brennan at the New York Times finished writing the story. 2,000 words. Front page. The headline read, "Harlem Officer Accused of Extortion Ring." The subhead internal documents show 2 years of alleged corruption. The story included photographs, names, dates, bank account numbers. Everything. Brennan walked the story to his editor. The editor read it twice. "This is solid. Solid as concrete. I verified the bank records with 2 sources. The recordings are authenticated. Internal Affairs has the same file. So does the DA. This is not a rumor. This is documentation. Run it, tomorrow morning, front page above the fold." By noon, Patrick Ali walked into Captain Hayes' office at Internal Affairs. He was smiling, still riding the high from knocking Bumpy Johnson's hat into the gutter 3 days ago, still telling the story to anyone who would listen. Still thinking he had won something, Hayes and Captain Morris sat behind the desk. The folder sat between them. Hayes gestured to a chair. "Sit down, Officer Ali." Ali sat, looked at the folder. What is this about?" Hayes opened the folder, turned it so Ali could see the first photograph. Ali walking out of a grocery store on 116th Street with an envelope in his hand. The date stamp showed March 12, 1955. Ali's smile disappeared. His face went white. "Where did you get that? Keep looking." Hayes turned the page. A bank deposit slip. $300. Same date. Another page. A transcript of a conversation recorded on a wire hidden in the back of a dry cleaning shop. Ali's voice clear as daylight, telling the owner that $50 a week keeps the shop from burning down. "This is fake. This is a setup. Bumpy Johnson did this because of what happened on Lennox Avenue. He is trying to frame me." Hayes closed the folder. "Did Bumpy Johnson force you to take money from shop owners? Did he force you to deposit it in your bank account? Did he force you to threaten people with arson if they did not pay?" "I never did any of that." "Then explain the bank records. Explain the photographs. Explain your voice on those recordings." Ali said nothing. His hands were shaking. Captain Morris looked at him with disgust. "You stupid bastard. You have been shaking down my precinct for 2 years and you thought nobody would notice. I want a lawyer. You will get one. But first you are suspended. Badge and gun. Now." Ali unclipped his badge, set it on the desk. drew his service revolver and placed it next to the badge. His hands were trembling so badly he almost dropped the gun. Hayes pushed a piece of paper across the desk. "Sign this. It acknowledges you have been informed of the investigation and that you are suspended pending the outcome." "What if I do not sign it?" "Then you are fired instead of suspended." "Your choice." Ali signed. His signature was barely legible. He stood up. "This is not over. I will fight this." Hayes looked at him. "Sit down." Ali sat back down. Hayes leaned forward. "You think you are going to fight this? Let me explain what is about to happen. Tomorrow morning, the New York Times is running a front-page story about you. It includes your name, your badge number, and every detail in this file. By noon tomorrow, every reporter in the city will be calling your house. By the end of the week, the DA will convene a grand jury. By the end of the month, you will be indicted. And when you go to trial, the jury will see these photographs and hear these recordings, and you will be convicted. You will lose your pension. You will lose your badge. You will go to prison. And in prison, you will be surrounded by men you arrested. Men who remember your face. Men who have very creative ways of settling old debts." Ali's face was gray. Sweat was running down his forehead. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand that fighting this is suicide. The evidence is airtight. The witnesses are everywhere. The DA has everything he needs to put you away for 10 years. Your only option is to cooperate, plead guilty, testify against anyone else in the precinct who was involved, and maybe the DA will recommend a reduced sentence." "How reduced?" 3 to 5 instead of 10. Minimum security instead of Sing Sing. Survival instead of getting your throat cut in a shower. Ali put his head in his hands. He understood now. Bumpy Johnson had not walked away from the confrontation on Lennox Avenue because he was weak. He had walked away because he already had the weapon loaded and aimed. All he needed was for Ali to pull the trigger on himself. By Tuesday morning, the New York Times story hit the newsstands. Front page, above the fold. Patrick Ali's name in bold print. The photograph from the grocery store right there for everyone to see. By noon, reporters were camped outside Ali's apartment. His wife had packed a bag and gone to her mother's house with the kids. His phone rang non-stop until he unplugged it from the wall. By Wednesday, the grand jury was convened. The DA presented the evidence. Photographs, bank records, tape recordings, testimony from shop owners who had been too afraid to come forward before, but were now willing to talk because they knew Ali's badge was gone and he could not hurt them anymore. The grand jury deliberated for 4 hours. The indictment came back unanimous. 12 counts of extortion, 8 counts of bribery, 4 counts of abuse of authority. By Thursday, Ali's lawyer told him the truth he did not want to hear. "You are going to lose. The evidence is overwhelming. The jury will convict. Your only option is to take a plea. Plead guilty. Cooperate with the DA. Hope for leniency." "How much time?" 5 years if you cooperate, 10 if you fight it. And if you fight it and lose, which you will, the judge will make an example out of you. You will do every day of that 10 years in a place where cops do not last long. Ali signed the plea agreement on Friday. 5 years, minimum security, full cooperation. He would testify against 2 other officers in his precinct who had been running similar schemes. He would forfeit his pension. He would never wear a badge again. He would leave New York when he got out and never come back. On Saturday, 1 week after he knocked Bumpy Johnson's hat into the gutter, Patrick Ali sat in his empty apartment and understood what had just happened. He had humiliated Bumpy in front of 200 people. And Bumpy had responded by turning Ali's own greed into a weapon that cut his life into pieces. No bullets, no beatings, no bodies in the river. Just evidence and phone calls and a system that ground him into dust while Bumpy sat back and watched. Real power was not throwing the punch. Real power was making the system throw it for you. And Patrick Ali had just learned that lesson, the hardest way possible. July 12, 1956. Patrick Ali sat in his empty apartment, staring at the phone. His wife had taken the kids to Connecticut. The DA had his plea agreement. The newspapers had printed his name next to words like extortion and corruption and disgrace. In 1 week, he had gone from being a cop with a badge and a pension to being a convict waiting to report to prison. The phone rang. Ali stared at it for 3 rings before he picked it up. Tomorrow night. Midnight. The back room at Small's Paradise. Come alone. The line went dead. Ali recognized the voice, Illinois Gordon, which meant Bumpy Johnson wanted to see him. Ali sat there holding the phone for 5 minutes, trying to decide if walking into Small's Paradise was walking into his own funeral. But he had no choice. You did not ignore a summons from Bumpy Johnson, not in Harlem, not anywhere. Sunday night. Midnight. Ali walked down 7th Avenue toward Small's Paradise. The street was empty. The clubs had closed an hour ago. His footsteps echoed on the pavement. He knocked on the back door. Illinois Gordon opened it, looked at him with eyes that showed nothing. No anger, no pity, just cold assessment. Inside, Ali walked through the kitchen and down a hallway to a back room. Bumpy Johnson sat behind a desk with a single lamp throwing shadows across his face. A glass of wine sat in front of him, untouched. Illinois closed the door and stood next to it with his arms crossed. Bumpy gestured to a chair. Sit. Ali sat. His hands were shaking. He put them in his lap so Bumpy would not see. Bumpy looked at him for 30 seconds without speaking. The silence was heavier than any threat. Ali felt sweat running down his back. "You knocked my hat off," Bumpy said. His voice was quiet, conversational. "In front of 200 people. You thought that made you strong. You thought it proved you were not afraid of me." Ali said nothing. His throat was too tight. "What you actually did was give me everything I needed to end your life without touching you, without breaking any laws, without giving anyone a reason to come after me. You did it to yourself. All I did was hand the evidence to people who were looking for a reason to take down a dirty cop." Ali found his voice. It came out hoarse. "Why did you call me here to gloat, to tell me you won? No, I called you here to give you a choice. What choice? I already signed the plea. I am going to prison. My career is over. My wife left. My kids will not talk to me. What choice do I have?" Bumpy leaned forward. "You can do your 5 years and come out thinking you got unlucky, thinking the system was rigged, thinking Bumpy Johnson played dirty and you were just a victim. If that is what you choose, you will spend the rest of your life bitter and angry and looking for a way to get even. And if you do that, I will hear about it. And the next time we meet, Illinois will not be standing by the door. He will be standing over your grave." Ali's face went white. Bumpy continued, "Or you can accept that you broke the law, that you shook down shop owners for money, that you threatened people who could not fight back, that you deserve what is happening to you. And if you accept that if you serve your time and come out understanding that you brought this on yourself, then we are done. You leave New York. You go somewhere, nobody knows your name. You start over. And I never think about you again. That is the choice. Accept that I deserve this, or you kill me. No. The choice is whether you learn from this, or whether you spend the rest of your life making the same mistakes until someone puts you in the ground. I do not care which one you pick. But I want you to understand what happened here. You thought knocking my hat off was power. It was not. It was stupidity. Real power is not humiliating someone in public. Real power is making them destroy themselves while everyone watches and nobody can stop it." Ali sat there. His hands were still shaking. "Why did you wait 2 years? If you had all this evidence, why did you wait until now?" "Because I did not need to use it until you gave me a reason. You could have walked your beat, collected your bribes, lived your corrupt little life. I would have kept building the file, but I would not have used it unless you crossed a line. You crossed it. You put your hands on my dignity in front of witnesses. That required response, not bullets, not beatings. Response that left no doubt about who runs Harlem and what happens when someone forgets. Bumpy stood, walked to the window, looked out at 7th Avenue. The plea agreement you signed includes cooperation. You are testifying against 2 other cops in your precinct. Good. Do that. Tell the truth. Serve your time. Get out. Leave New York. Leave New. Never come back. If you do that, we are finished. You get to live. You get to start over somewhere else. You get to die of old age instead of choking on your own tongue in a prison shower. Ali stood. His legs were weak. What if I do not leave? What if I stay in New York after I get out? Bumpy turned from the window. Then you find out what happens to men who do not learn their lessons. And trust me, you do not want that education. The system was mercy. What comes after the system is not. Illinois opened the door. Ali walked toward it, stopped, turned back. I am sorry for what I did, for knocking your hat off. Bumpy looked at him. I do not want your apology. I want you to understand that respect is not optional. You thought the badge made you untouchable. It did not. It made you visible. And when you are visible and corrupt, eventually someone notices. I just made sure the right people noticed at the right time. Ali left, walked out through the kitchen and into the night. The door closed behind him. Illinois looked at Bumpy. You think he learned? Does not matter. If he learned, he lives quiet and dies old. If he did not learn, someone else teaches him the final lesson. Either way, he is no longer my problem. Bumpy picked up the glass of wine, took one sip, set it down. Patrick Ali thought knocking my hat off was a victory. What he did not understand is that I let him knock it off. I let him have his moment. I let him think he won, because men who think they won stop being careful. And when they stop being careful, that is when you hit them with everything you have been holding back. Outside, Patrick Ali walked down 7th Avenue toward the subway. He understood now what Bumpy had done, had let him commit a public act of disrespect, had let him feel powerful, had let him celebrate, then had waited exactly the right amount of time before activating a weapon that had been loaded for 2 years. By the time Ali realized what was happening, it was already over. The indictment was filed. The plea was signed. The future was decided. 3 weeks later, Patrick Ali reported to a minimum security facility in upstate New York to begin serving his 5-year sentence. He served 4 years, got out early for good behavior, moved to Florida, changed his name, got a job as a security guard at a shopping mall, never wore a badge again, never came back to New York, never spoke Bumpy Johnson's name out loud. And for the rest of his life, every time he looked in a mirror, he remembered the night he sat in that back room at Small's Paradise and learned that real power does not come from humiliating someone in public. It comes from making them humiliate themselves while you watch from a distance and let the machine do the work. Within 6 months, 3 more cops working the Harlem beat requested transfers. 2 took early retirement. 1 moved to a desk job in Queens where he pushed papers and never walked a street again. None of them said why. They did not need to. Everyone knew. Patrick Ali had become a lesson, a story cops told each other in locker rooms when they wanted to explain what happened to men who forgot that badges did not make them untouchable. The shop owners on 125th Street stopped paying protection. The Korean grocer who had been the first to come to Bumpy with evidence of Ali's shakedown hung a photograph of Bumpy in his store next to a picture of his family. When customers asked why, he said, "Because that man kept my store from burning down without ever raising his voice." Bumpy Johnson's reputation did not just survive the hat incident. It grew. The story spread through every borough: Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx. Even cops in precincts that had nothing to do with Harlem heard about what happened, how a corrupt officer had tried to humiliate Bumpy in public. How Bumpy had responded not with violence, but with evidence. How the system had ground Ali into dust while Bumpy sat back and watched with clean hands. Patrick Ali served 4 years, got paroled, moved to Florida, changed his name, worked security at a shopping mall until he was too old to stand for 8-hour shifts. He never came back to New York, never wore a badge, never spoke about what happened. And every year on July 4th, he remembered the moment he knocked Bumpy Johnson's hat into the gutter and thought he had won. Real power is not the hardest punch. It is not the fastest draw, or the sharpest knife, or the biggest crew. Real power is the moment you do not need to act because everyone already knows what you are capable of. Real power is making your enemy destroy themselves while you watch from a distance and let time do the work that bullets used to do. On July 4th, 1957, exactly 1 year after Patrick Ali knocked his hat off, Bumpy Johnson walked down Lennox Avenue wearing the same charcoal fedora. 200 people saw him. Nobody said a word. But everyone moved aside, not because they were afraid, because they understood that respect in Harlem was not demanded, it was earned. And Bumpy Johnson had earned it by proving that the strongest men do not need to be the loudest. The lesson here isn't about crime, it's about control. Real power doesn't rush, shout, or react. It pauses, gathers information, and moves only when the outcome is already decided. In life, the people who win aren't always the loudest or the strongest, but the ones who stay calm while others panic, who think 3 steps ahead when pressure hits hardest. This story is shared for historical insight and personal reflection, not to promote violence or illegal behavior. Thank you for watching to the end. If this story made you think differently about power and patience, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join us next time because the next story goes even deeper.